This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Monday, November 3rd of 2025. I'll have a check of the closing markets coming up here soon with agmarket.net. But first, I speak with Jeff Morey, an AgriGold agronomist in Northwest Iowa, about the yield variability he's seen this season.
So there's been a few farmers who've wrapped up things actually before we got that rain that moved in here just this week. And I would say we're probably down to about a third of the crop on the corn side left to come out. Beans are probably 99% done. There's not much in the field anywhere for beans at this point right now. Yields this year, I would say the key word is variability. We've seen things from as high as 280 and as low as 140 in the field out there. A lot of different things that impacted those yield results throughout the year, though.
As for corn, Morey said diseases like southern rust were major yield limiting factors this year.
Specifically for southern rust in northwest Iowa, probably as much as 30 to 50 bushels. In some cases, it may be higher than that as we continue to get some yield data in for those guys who did treat certain fields or parts of certain fields. We'll see some more comparison there, but it was certainly a big impact this year across the bulk of northwest Iowa, I would say. The far northwest corner of the state didn't have it near as severe, and I would say the far western side of west central Iowa, not near as severe, but they had other issues going on as well.
Sudden death syndrome started to impact soybeans late in the crop season, but Morey said it didn't end up having much of an impact on soybean yields.
Yeah, probably saw a little more sudden death than we expected. It kind of seemed to come in late. But as far as yields, what we saw on the field from those areas that had sudden death, yields were not impacted that greatly. Yes, there were some fields out there that it took 10 to 15 bushels off the top, but typically it was just small areas of the field that it was impacting. And I would say I was surprised by how little white mold we actually saw on the field this year.
And when harvest wraps up, it'll be a great time for some crop scouting, even as you are still in the combine cab. Morey said there are a few things to look for when you're making those crop scouting decisions.
Yeah, so as we're running the combine across the field, we're looking at things, especially in corn, as far as standability. How is that crop holding up? The other thing we might be looking for would be how is that crop leaning? Is it leaning from the roots or is it a stalk that broke over? Things like that, because if you've got things leaning at the roots, did you have some wind damage or did you possibly have some corn rootworm feeding that caused some of that leaning to happen out there? And then as far as stalks breaking off, where are they breaking off at? We talked a lot about southern rust already, but there were some things out there like anthracnose stalk rot, crown rot. I saw a little bit of physoderma out there this year in some places too. So just taking notes like that on what parts of the field you've seen that in, what that helps you with in the future then is that's a reference for when you want to go back out and scout some parts of that field. Any of those areas you've had heavy pressure, especially if you're corn on corn, you want to get back into those and look at some of those areas a little closer.
Morey also had some highlights of the AgriGold lineup for the 2026 season.
Yeah, so I guess talk a little bit about just the general picture of hybrids and going forward. AgriGold works with what we call our Field GX families. And I think because of what we saw in southern rust this year, it's key to plant a mix of genetics. And when you look at our families, you can plant different families that will handle different stresses out there, different environmental stresses and different disease pressures out there. So you want to look at those as far as planting a mix. The other thing to keep in mind when you're looking at yield data this fall, according to our internal data, there's about an 11% chance that this year's plot winner will be next year's plot winner. So don't be chasing just those plot winners. We want to plant a mix of products out there. And AgriGold's got a lineup of products, and a couple I might key on would be the 63891 and the 64016 that are doing spectacular this year and being pretty dominant in a lot of plots, north and south. So we've got some new stuff coming that looks very promising.
All right, Jeff, lots of great information today. For anyone who wants to get in touch with AgriGold and learn more, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can look for us at agrigold.com.
That again was Northwest Iowa AgriGold agronomist Jeff Morey. It's time now to take a look at the closing markets with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Sam, what do we see going on in the grains today?
Well, we saw more of the same from what we saw last week. Continued strength in the soybean market it was kind of an all over the place trade, as it has been here recently with these soybeans. Overnight, we showed a lot of strength, and then early morning started to pull back, got right around unchanged there, close to the open at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. But then towards the end of the session, really found more strength and continued up and ended up closing near the highs. I know that the November contract is now into deliveries, but there's been a lot of talk about that front month contract trading above $11. Friday night going home, we settled at $10.99 3/4. So about as close as you can get to being over $11 without being over $11. But here today, finishing 20 cents higher, 11.19 3/4. That's something that a lot of traders are certainly going to keep an eye on here. And I think that's what supported some of the momentum here in the markets later in the session. A lot of managed money and commodity funds were buying soybeans here on some technical strength.
And then the Chinese trade deal continues to be quite the focus for the markets. We know that more and more details are getting released. And then today we hear reports that Chinese finally bought soybeans from Brazil. So there's a lot of conflicting information there. What do we think from the markets moving forward on that? I mean, just more volatility?
Yeah, this soybean market is going to be very volatile over the next weeks and potentially even months here. But something that I think is important for all the viewers to understand here is we are still in a government shutdown. So that means that we are not getting any flash sale reports. Generally, with government reports coming out regularly, anytime that China or any other country for that matter makes a soybean purchase or corn purchase or any type of purchase over a specific amount, we get a flash sale announcement. So we know sometimes they'll come out as unknown destinations, but generally we have a pretty strong idea where those sales are coming from. We're not getting those right now. However, with talking to our commercial counterparts, the belief is that China has been buying soybeans during this government shutdown, kind of using it as a way to buy beans undercover. We did get confirmation last week in a Reuters article that China did, in fact, buy some soybeans. That's the first, I guess you would say, confirmed sale. But now with this trade deal in effect and the 12 million metric tons needing to be sold by the end of January 2026 is certainly supportive of this market. And I think that China's probably a much bigger buyer right now than what we may believe, just based on the lack of news that we've been getting out of the government.
Then over on the livestock side of things, Sam, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
Boy, that cattle market has been on quite a run here. We went up higher and then just completely fell off a cliff there last week, and then traded higher again and then fell off again towards the end of the week. Today we're back in the green, but man, this has been one market that's been on one heck of a roller coaster. Feeders were up 460 today, fats up 272. So I guess silver lining is that we will not have expanded limits tomorrow. I think we traded most of last week with expanded limits due to closing on the limits, or at least touching limit down or limit up for that matter at some point in the session. Did not see that today. So maybe getting back to a little bit near normal. I think with all the news out there, whether it be from President Trump's social media or Argentina imports or anything along those lines, I think it's pretty hard to believe that we're going to go back up and make new highs from here, just considering the amount that we've fallen from those highs. But we very well could be in for a little bit of a correction here before falling much lower. But it is important to remind everybody, as I'm sure they're all aware, even though we have sold off over $40 in this feeder market, we are still at historically high levels if you look back at a continuous chart. So certainly something to keep an eye on. And if you still have some risk out there, you want to protect that. And then lastly, a touch on the hogs here. A pretty quiet day for them. They did finish a little bit lower on the day, but as we enter the holidays here and maybe if this cattle market does turn around and go a little bit lower yet, maybe that finds some strength for the hog markets.
All right, Sam, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Best way would be to visit our website at agmarket.net, or you could give us a phone call at 1-800-779-1515.
Thanks again for your time, as always, Sam, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Riley. Talk to you later.
At the close, December corn up 2 3/4 at $4.34 1/4. November soybeans up 20 even at $11.19 3/4. December soybean meal down 80 cents at $3.20.80. Soybean oil up $1.16 at $49.84. Chicago wheat up 9 1/2 at $5.43 1/2. Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 7 1/4 at $5.31 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 5 1/2 at $5.58 1/2. December oats up 6 1/2 at $2.96 1/4. On the Merc, December live cattle up 252 at 232.20. November feeders up 370 at 342.57. December lean hogs down 67 cents at 80.60. Pork cutout went unchanged at 95 even. And November Class 3 milk down 31 cents at 17.08. That's been a check of the markets, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. For all of our content, you can find it at iowaagnet.com. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.